Be forewarned, because this video will have discussions of self-harm up to and including suicide, and major spoilers for a game that is literally only story, so
you've been warned.
Just like the game, we ain't playing around today. It's 2017. Kendall Jenner was teaching us that Pepsi was pretty much all we needed to erase the last traces of racism. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced to the world that they were going to be bringing a little bit of diversity to the royal family, and we all had to watch in horror as Tom Brady won yet another motherfucking Super Bowl that was gifted to this man. Like, why do I hate Tom Brady so much? Why do I hate that motherfucker? His stupid, smug-ass face. Giselle, like he... It was also a year of so many amazing games that I was a bit overwhelmed. We have Persona 5, Cuphead, Wolfenstein 2, Resident Evil 7, and Horizon Zero Dawn, which were just a few of the handful of the many incredible pieces of software that I was playing on my nearly year-old PS4. Not to mention the Switch had just been released earlier that year with a butt ton of new classics, such as Super Mario Odyssey and Mario Kart 8. I was so busy with this embarrassment of riches that I honestly never had even heard of Doki Doki Literature Club, Doki Doki or DDLC from now on, until about 2021, when it would eventually become one of my very first PS4 games that I played. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We're here to see if Doki Doki is worth your playthrough today in 2023, so let's go ahead and get into it. DDLC is a visual novel game developed and published by Team Salvato. Dan Salvato, the man on the building himself, is an American programmer previously known for his Smash Brothers mods and custom Super Mario Maker levels, whom, after realizing his love-hate relationship with anime, decided to take that overabundance of cliches present in the genre and make a game that, well, sets all that cute shit up and just goes and fucking
goes right through it.
Brutally and violently, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. A freelance artist named Satchely took Dan's rough sketches and created all the final character art that you see, allowing articulated motion within each piece for the more, unfortunate moments. The backgrounds were rendered out by an artist named Delinquent, taking original 3D models and providing that dating sim look we all recognize immediately, but don't know why. Finally, Salvato himself created all the music in the game, which is just truly a man after my own heart. It should be obvious why I love a creator that makes their own music, but there you go. A true gamersician, this guy. I should start a Gamersician Hall of Fame. I put him and Tom Happ in there so far. Mad lads, those two. So yeah, a small team, largely made up of freelance workers, were responsible for this game. It's really remarkable what can happen when you get all these disparate pieces working towards one goal. Sort of reminds me of the Spider-Verse animators. I love creativity by committee like this, as it really makes every moment feel alive in very different ways. The original game was released on September 22nd, 2017 through itch.io, a website for hosting indie games utilizing a pay-what-you-like model. It was later released to Steam as well. Within the first quarter of release, DDLC was downloaded over 1 million times and ended up passing 2 million less than a month later. Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, the version of the game I played on PS5, was released in June of 2021 and went on to sell over 1 million copies. The Plus includes many upgrades, a move from the original engine to Unity, which upped the resolution considerably, as well as numerous side stories that shows interactions with the girls, additional music, images, poems, and quite a bit more. Dan states he was intent on providing value to longtime players, as well as making the $14.99 price tag appealing to new fans as well. Review numbers seem unimportant for a game like this, but it does carry an aggregate score a bit all over the place based on release platform, with an average of about 83%. Reviewers did note that the unique setup and its ability to bounce off the ideas of this cutesy game with stark psychological horror was incredibly effective. Some reviewers took issue with the slog of a narrative, held back by the very setup that garners its praise. It did win 2017's IGN People's Choice for the best PC game of that year, as well as best story and most innovative game. The cultural impact of such a niche game feels harder to quantify, however, it is certainly there. There are so many fan versions of this game with extended dialogues and scenes, as well as an entire Doki Doki builder that the Salvato team encourages use of. They've really embraced the fandom, and with millions of players and over 250,000 Reddit users on the DDLC sub, it's clear that this game matters to many, many people. Dan was quoted saying that, "We love that the fan community expresses their love for our game and characters in so many unique ways that come from their own hearts." He's also talked in numerous interviews about fans singing the beloved "Your Reality" to him at events and him being literally moved to tears. And because of the way it handles its heavier content with respect and care, never placing its ire at the player character but rather the situation of the main antagonist, you can see how people dealing with depression, self-harm tendencies, or other abuse can play this game and not feel like they're being misunderstood or taken advantage of. Now, I guess your mileage may vary, but I never felt like it broached these topics in an inappropriate or unaware way. Now, this is where I'd usually start to get into the story for these nostalgia episodes, but because the story of this game is practically the entirety of the game, let's jump into graphics, gameplay, and sound, and we'll circle back. The look of this game is that of any number of shovelware trash you'd find on your Switch store or PSN, but my friend, that is the initial brilliance of it. Everything about this game's presentation is to get your guard down for what's about to come. And like Dan said, this is cute girls doing cute shit. Each girl has very few frames of animation, if you even want to call it that, with an expressiveness that is relegated to this pose with a smirk or this pose with my hand on my hip. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd think that your main goal was to get in these chicks' pants with sultry romance, little quips, and subtle and not so subtle innuendos. The backgrounds are sparse, mostly taking place in the classroom, but to the keen eye there are many little Easter eggs hidden throughout. The graphics do their job. And gameplay, well, gameplay mostly comes down to pressing the X button a lot. Or be smart like me and set up your autofocus at the right pace for your particular reading speed. On that note, I do wish that if I pushed X to skip a short line of text, that it didn't just turn off auto. It would have been nice if you had to actively stop auto read so that it could just be mostly left alone. Anyway, your gameplay consists of reading text and more text and the periodic choice that sometimes isn't even really a choice. The biggest piece of gameplay comes in the form of poetry to write. At the end of each day, you go home and script your latest piece of Hemingway brilliance. While some of us may be poets that don't even know it, I'd wager most of us wouldn't love to be transported back to high school ourselves. So, you choose words on a screen that make different girls go gaga. I of course chose edgelord shit to impress Yuri most of the time because, Yuri is obviously the one. Natsuki is so mean. Poetry becomes more and more integral into the game's oddities and spirals out of control like, most everything else in DDLC. But we'll save more of that for the story. Same with the music, as it is both really dope, but also plays a big part in the way the game feels. You start with this incredibly upbeat, catchy music, basically pop instrumentals, major key, bouncy drums, clean bass lines, and the call out of nothing bad could happen in a game with music this happy, right? Right. As the game goes on and the loops continue, music begins to go out of key, detuned, speeds up. It really lends to this eerie and very, very, very unsettling feeling. This game is all set up in a massive fucking knockout. Much like Doki Doki itself, I'm gonna slap this section with another content warning. Like seriously guys, this shit ain't for kids. You gotta put them to bed. This ain't for them. I'm for real. Read the warning.
Seriously, okay.
Good? We're good. So let's get into the story. The mindfuck that is the Doki Doki Literature Club narrative. When I fired up this game for the first time in 2 years, yeah, I know I'm sort of breaking my own nostalgia rules for this, but bear with me. I didn't realize I actually ended the game somewhere in the middle of a playthrough. A real in medias res for myself, which was a bit of an experience in itself. Monica was nowhere to be found, and Sayori was president of the club. Realizing the eventualities of being the president of the club, Sayori tells me, "Oh, hell no," and deletes the entire game, sending me to the title screen and a fresh save. Fuck. So I'm back at the beginning. Let's just pretend that that didn't happen, okay? Our story begins with a seemingly ordinary protagonist, a high school student that you get to name. Let's call him Jim, because, why the fuck not? With an uncanny knack for attracting quirky anime girls. They join the literature club with hopes of finding love, friendship, and maybe even some poetry skills along the way. Little did they know, though, that their path to romantic enlightenment was paved with psychological horrors they could have never thought of. Now meet Sayori, the bubbly and clumsy bundle of joy. She greets everyone with a silly, radiant smile, but deep down she has battled with the darkness that threatens to consume her. Poor Sayori, she can't even find the will to get out of bed in the morning. Maybe she just has some hang-ups that, Anyway, then there's Natsuki, the tough cookie with a cute exterior. She's tiny as shit with a fiery attitude and a passion for manga and baking. But don't let her size fool you. She could definitely throw a punch. Rumor has it she once headbutted a vending machine to get her snack unstuck. Not one to shy away from a confrontation, even with a bag of Doritos. Natsuki is abrasive, but once you get to know her, she can become a bit disarmed and meek. Ah, Yuri. Epitome of elegance and sophistication. Breast girl. I mean best girl. Best girl. Best girl. She has a love for all things literature, with reading being her love language. She has a knack for getting lost in her own world while reading, to the point she chooses to sit alone at lunch just to dive deeper into her books. She always seemed a bit off to me, potentially just being an awkward high schooler who's, the game claims everyone's 18. Or maybe it was her obsession with knives or her tendency to randomly quote Edgar Allan Poe. It's a good thing she didn't start her own poetry-themed cutlery club, cause we might all be filleted. Last but not least, there's Monica, the club president. With her stunning green eyes, charming smile, and vanilla as fuck personality, she seems like the embodiment of perfection. Seemed. Why is she so stiff and Game starts out pretty chill. I can imagine as Sayori brings the protag to the classroom for the first time that he just spits into his hands and thinks, man, it's my lucky day. All these girls are thirsty for someone to come into their club and write poetry with them, and you just happen to be the only guy. This isn't romance visual novel setup 101. I don't know what is. Things are going well for you as you write poetry to woo your favorite girls, Yuri of course, but your first hint that something is seriously awry comes when Monica mentions game saves during a random conversation. Like, what? Why would a video game character mention you saving your game in the game? Monica slips up again when she mentions a translation error during a joke about squids that doesn't make sense in English. Now, I am curious how this was translated in the Japanese version of the game. If I have any Japanese viewers, please let me know what happens here in the comments. The main goal of the game is to get to the weekend where you get to go to the girl of your dreams house and work on whatever you need to for the big school event that shows off the lit club. Your first time through though, it really doesn't matter what you do because the almighty Monica is
watching.
You notice Sayori getting sadder and sadder and eventually not wanting your attention. This is odd because she spends most of the game to this point reminiscing with you on past fun times together, and it's clear she cares a lot about you. Monica is super dismissive of how she's acting, and despite you asking her to talk to Sayori, the next thing you know, Sayori is heading out for the day. You catch up to her eventually at her house and have the opportunity to confess your love to her. It's a very touching moment. Sayori opens up like a dam bursting forth. She hugs you and cries and tells you about her deep depression that feels like it's getting worse, even though you guys are closer than ever. She assures you she's fine, and you go home to meet the next day at the club. When you arrive, Sayori is nowhere to be found, and this crazy bitch, Monica, coldly, maliciously tells you everything you need to know. You left her hanging. You left her hanging. You run back to Sayori's house and basically break in to check in on her, and oh my god, bro, no way. I was not ready for this. Even on a replaying of this game, poor Sayori, seriously, like poor Sayori. Off herself due to the depression that apparently got worse, and you know it's Monica's fault. If it isn't apparent initially, anyone that sits and thinks about it for a bit can see it. But then the game ends and goes back to a reboot with Oh, fuck, man. Look at this glitchy shit. Get ready to see a lot more of this. Now, whenever Sayori is mentioned in the game, the coding flips out because this cutesy little romance novel doesn't know what the fuck is happening anymore. Despite first using Microsoft Word in the 90s, I've yet to become fluent in wingding, so I have no clue what is being attempted here by the system's code. At this point, shit gets more and more weird. The three girls left are exhibiting really odd behavior. Their poems get stranger, their behavior gets more erratic, and Monika gets a little more,
Sociopathic?
Yuri always appeared to have a bit of an obsessive personality, but by the middle of this playthrough, she's telling you about how she took her pen home to pleasure herself. Your pen to pleasure. She also, I guess, like pissed on your poem that she gave you so it smelled like her. I'm gonna pretend that's perfume. Yeah, that's definitely perfume. One of the things you begin to notice is that after these outbursts or ratcheting up of their personality traits you see in these girls, it's fear. It's pure fear, and it's haunting. You see these girls coming out of these moments with black letters in absolute panic because it doesn't feel like them. And it's not, because Monika stays fucking with their code or overriding their dialogue or generally causing them to lose their minds. Both girls try to cry out to you in their own way too. Yuri pulls you into the hall where you unfortunately find her cutting, tries to tell you that Monika is always watching her. Oh, and she is, cause peep this shit. Fading in from nowhere. This bitch, how am I supposed to read this dialogue? She cranks up the opacity for harassing me. Oh, bars, baby. Natsuki writes a poem that straight up asks you to help her and that she's terrified of Monika and fearful for Yuri's mental health. Definitely don't tell Monika. Yuri ends up taking a knife out and murdering herself, whether you tell her you love her or not. Kind of hard to say no to a chick telling you they want to live inside your shredded skin hole. And you're forced to sit and stare at her body for what feels like a fucking eternity as the life drains from her body. No amount of skip makes this feel any less unsettling. I couldn't get out of the classroom fast enough. Oh my god, Natsuki is vomiting everywhere and Monika is unfazed. Are we surprised by this anymore? Nah. Another cool touch I noticed was that whenever the girls act way out of line, they take on many Monika-isms. The aha ha ha is a dead giveaway because this skis is rewriting their words on the fly. Monika says, you know what, fuck this, and she just deletes everyone, then decides to restart the game yet again, except this time you're in an empty space just staring at Monika, just Monika. She spiraled so far out of control and there's so little of the game left to stand on that you can't even fake it anymore. So we're both left with next to nothing. Listen, I just started watching The Boys for the first time a few days ago and I can't help but to feel like there's a little bit of Monika in Homelander. So hear me out. This is not to say I sympathize with Monika, and definitely not with that blonde-haired, fuck-faced Christian psycho dickhead, but I can't imagine what one must do to feel anything when they have this level of power, this amount of freedom to do whatever they want with impunity. If you were a god, you know, literally, wouldn't you view everyone else the way we view, say, an insect? Could I blame you for not valuing life and humanity in the way a human does? But yeah, Monika deletes everything but you and her, and the way she refers to your actual PSN had me literally put off for a second. Like, bitch, how do you know my real name? It gave me real
You like Castlevania, don't you?
vibes. Metal Gear Solid walked so Doki Doki could
Motherfucking fly to the pits of hell.
You come to realize that Monika's beef with this game is obvious. She was never a love option. This perfect, incredible girl was never a romance option in her own game. And it drove her to an obsession with you. No, not you, the main character, you, the gamer. And all she wants to do is exit the game and make sweet, sweet, two-dimensional love to you forever and ever. And if you don't pick up on her cues, you could literally sit there and listen to her small talk you until eternity. The game will never end if you don't figure out the next move. And this might be one of the most brilliant moments in a video game I've ever played. I just love this. You have to go into the files and actively delete Monika. Until you do, no matter how many times you reboot the console, close the game and open it back up, she'll be right there, ready to talk to you about whatever the fuck is on her mind. And you know, she actually has some interesting points. She can ask you if you're playing the romance game because you're lonely, She talks about climate change. She even gives a long diatribe on the value of mental health professionals. Quite rich coming from this one. She does note that you're pretty perfect as you are, however, so I guess therapy isn't really necessary, huh? Anyway, once you muster the nerve to jump into the game's file system, you can delete Monica, move on with your Nope, she has more to say. She berates you, telling you you're the worst person ever. Then in a moment of apparent clarity, she mentions to you that love is more than obsession and control. That she should let go of you to make your own decisions because that is real love. Holy shit. Good job, Monica. The game restarts and in a moment of redemption, Monica sings Your Reality. You immediately parse the fact that she was always late to the classroom because A, she'd only show up when you did since she's aware she's in a game unlike the other girls, and B, the talk about her piano playing was for this song. Like, that blew my mind. With lyrics like, and if this world won't write me an ending, what will it take just for me to have it all? And is it love if I take you, or is it love if I set you free? You begin to realize a bit of the plight of Monica, and she may even begin to feel a bit more of a three-dimensional character to, oh goddamn it, there's City Org. The loop continues. This game's story just needs to be played to be believed. This isn't pure horror like, say, a Resident Evil or Dead Space. Psychological horror is the name of the game. It's unsettling, it's unnerving. My palms sweat just thinking about waiting for a glitch or a wandering eye or Monica. Playing it at least twice feels so necessary. Like the best horror movies that get extra value from subsequent viewings where you can pay close attention to details, corners of the rooms, and seemingly quippy dialogue that points to something more. My second time playing was so much better than even the first, and I can't wait to play it again and again every few years to be reminded of just how special and messed up this game really is. If you do play this game, pay super close attention to the poetry. Some of it is simple, some feels weird, other feel incredibly unhinged, and even more dark and foreboding in a way that tells you so much more than you think these scrollable texts really could. I definitely got chills reading some of the mid and late game poems because you can feel things going off the rails in an incredibly tangible way. Monica's Load Me poem and Yuri talking about the raccoon and her knife
both had me real shook.
I'm not even gonna set this up with a question. For $14.99 or free $99 on many platforms, yes, play this game. For the 3.5 to 4 hours it takes to finish, DDLC is a one-of-a-kind thrill ride that even if you've made it this far and know all the twists, it's worth experiencing for yourself. And it's one of those games that reminds me of why I love video games as a medium. You can't do this with a movie. It's the interactive nature, the file manipulation, the illusion of choice. Hell, even the having to click a button to advance to the next dialogue box when you know it's about to be a jump scare. That makes it stand out so much as a piece of media. You couldn't replicate this even if you were A24 publishing it. The halls of Doki Doki High will be a hallowed space I revisit for years to come.